So,
Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev. Good morning.
good morning.
I
You
like
know,
your
it's
bright yellow.
well, thank you. I needed it today because the first thing I was drawn to is to wear black because I was a little bit foul this morning. I was a little off kilter this morning, a little
Okay.
sharp, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I went to grab the dark stuff, and I was like, nope.
No.
Went through rummaged through my closet, and then found the one that was bright orange. I was like, okay, perfect.
That's the one. Well, it goes great with your shawl on the behind you.
No, I didn't even plan this.
I know, it looks great.
Awesome. Which is also something else I didn't plan. So before we started recording, you were using your Bev's clearing spray to clear the space, and I haven't made it for a while, and I've talked about it.
It's clearing spray. It's not very clear, but I'm just showing everybody.
Yeah, awesome. And I set my intentions when I make that, and all, for all the good stuff, which we can do with anything, making a meal, or, when you're sitting there cooking dinner, or if you go into that space, in that heart space, and you find yourself in that space of love and really enjoying the ingredients that you have, the stove that you have, all the whole process, the spoons, the utensils, the pans, the pots, everything that you've got, everything that's in front of you. It's like being so appreciative when you're making something. Those are the best meals on the face of the planet. It could be freaking Hamburger Helper. And I don't like Hamburger Helper, but I'm just saying, if you make it with this love, it doesn't matter, because then it's magical. So anyways, you're talking about the spray. So I say I make it. It's magical. That's my intention. It's clearing, right? It's clearing. Yeah. But we're talking about I'm like, well, there's a full moon coming up someday. And you're like, well, we just had a new moon and we're getting ready to come into a full moon. And I was like, yep, someday. So then I thought, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I never do this. I'm like, what's our path today? And I leaned back and grabbed my deck that's called the map.
Oh, okay.
Or the enchanted map, which I got a long time ago. And it's like the first card I pulled.
Moonlight. Love it.
Hilarious. And then the second card.
I can't read it. What does it say?
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis. All right. It's transformation or death, actually.
That's what we're going for right now. So, and it's like, I'm getting goosebumps, but I feel like something with this full moon, there's like something huge transpiring at the same time. Huge in a full spectrum. It's global. It's not small. That's what it feels like to me, which is super cool.
I'm just going to be honoring and say, we've been having a lot of transformation moments of the with the moons and the planets and all the stuff. And it's like, okay, now it's just time for people to start using their ticket and get on board, please.
Which is so funny that you say get your ticket and get on board, because I listened to Amanda Lawrence, and she goes by Mandy as well. But Amanda Lawrence, she's on YouTube. You can find her. Some of her stuff might seem, well, I would just tell you, take whatever feels good for you, whatever you feel like you resonate with. That's what I would say with anything. But she talks about that the train is here now. Wow, this is so huge. This is really huge. The way that I'm perceiving all this, because this train is here, and the people that are not awakened are getting on this train as well, and they're going to go through their awakening process. Like, so she has these learning dreams, and she talks about them, and it takes a while because she deciphers them. And she even goes to as far as to explain what a learning dream is versus, a learning dream for the global versus your own personal growth. So there's different stuff, and you can go look her up as far as that information goes. But she talks about everyone getting onto this train, getting onto the bus. You know what I mean? And then she also talked about having tickets. There's going to be certain tickets to go to certain places. That it doesn't mean that I know. It doesn't mean that we're like good or bad. If we get station 9 or 5 or 6, it just means there's something that resonates with us in that group that will be most beneficial for others in that group. And so it doesn't matter. You'll have awakened people, you'll have unawakened people, but it's not like a segregation thing. It's just a natural flow. Man, it's just kind of crazy how this stuff is going on, really. And even for this conversation, which also leads me to the next thing. So I'm listening to Suzanne Giesemann, and she's channeling Sanaya. which you can find her on YouTube as well. And I didn't look and see how old this one was, but it's talking about, we come here asleep, forgetting everything, to go on this whole journey of remembering again. How freaking amazing is that? Like this makes me like, my eyes want to water up, and because this is so exciting to me, because that makes all the sense in the world. We came here and we trudge around, and and it's not we're doing anything wrong at all. We're walking through all the quicksand and life and letting stuff weigh us down. Like, I'm going to carry this building and those 10 people over there on my back, and I'm going to make it through. I got this. Don't worry, I don't need any help. And then we go through this transformation, and we start learning that, man, I don't have to carry anybody. I can uplift everybody just by being in a space of love. Back to cooking our food, right? It's back to that, just being our true, authentic self is so beneficial for the world. Beneficial. We don't have to take on other people's personas. We don't have to take on anything. We just get to be ourselves. And guess what? We can play and do whatever that looks like while we're finding out what does that even look like to be yourself. So much stuff today. So much.
I think I agree with that, because I know for me and my journey, my reference is Sylvia Brown, who introduced me to life lessons, but she didn't call it that. They were, it's like the main topic of why we're here in the physical body, for ourselves, for our own journey. And I know it's for self-love. There's no doubt in my mind, like that was the topic for my PhD, so to speak. Like that was the major in my studies, if you will. I mean, along with that is, the shame, the guilt, judgment, anger, all the emotions, lower vibrational emotions for sure, but also those higher vibrational emotions, learning to embrace those more. But self-love, being that, with my experiences, love is external. Love came from everybody else. And it's not the first time I've said this in our conversations. So seeking love through everybody else, which is also seeking that approval and acceptance. When we come back to our true self, our spiritual essence, right? That the love is already there. It's always been there. It was there from the moment of conception, or the moment my spirit chose to go into the physical body while in the womb, or whatever point that was, the love was with me already. But that's not how I was taught, right? By witnessing everybody else around me. It was like you had to get love from the people around you. And as I got into my, I would say early to mid 30s is when I realized that was a false belief. That was a false statement, that the love was already in me, and it was for me to connect to that and love myself. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I love that. I love that when you're even saying that, and then how you're even saying basically love. Our definition of love was so mixed. Really, it's like learning love all over again. Or learning what love really is. Like going back to it's still part of the whole journey. It's going back to that whole feeling thing. And you don't have to do something for someone else you don't have to be appreciated. That doesn't mean love. It can mean love, but it doesn't mean love. It doesn't mean if you're not appreciated, or you didn't do something perfect, or however that looks for you, that's not love. That has nothing to do with love. Love loves no matter what. It's our true authentic nature. It's no matter what. There is no judgment in that space. None. We don't judge another for like, oh, so you're worshiping the devil. Okay, well that's kind of creepy. I don't know if this doesn't sound good. It's not my space to be in that space of judgment. It's to be neutral about it, because that's a benefit to somebody. That's going to benefit someone else's growth. That growth is going to help them step into their own spiritual path, their own personal power, their own awakening. And they say awakening, like, and I heard it again this morning, because it's like I felt this way for a long time. awakening, like it was going to be bam, it just happened overnight. Woo! And I think this is what's going to happen to a lot of people. But I think that from what my understanding is, that even these people plan it on a soul level, so they'll be just fine. They might need a little bit of guidance in there, but they'll be just fine. Some may not, but some of them are going to be fine. They're going to awaken and be like, holy crap, like all these things. And then it's just a process of going through that karmic stuff, and then, you know, releasing yourself and releasing the others from a lot of that stuff. I believe is part of the process, or would be part of the process. It's a freaking awesome journey. Like the whole process is, even the parts that don't feel good. And it's something that Suzanne says, it's like, it's on a soul level. Our soul is never damaged. It's never hurt. This is all learning. This is all a play. And if you look at it as a learning process, it's learning with these feelings, but it's learning to be in that space of love, regardless of all the stuff we're going through. You know what I mean? To be in that space. And that's well, guess what? I haven't gotten there overnight, but I'm getting it. I understand this. The concept is palpable. I feel it. I understand it. I just don't always stay in that space. But do you like my words? Because the universe doesn't hear don't, want, can't, shoulda, coulda, woulda, none of that kind of stuff. It's not there. Yeah.
Right.
So it's already a done deal.
So you said that, you know, some people are going to get their awakening. That's going to be,
yeah,
right. I feel like there's those of us, which I feel like you and I are kind of on the journey of the steady incline of growth, right? Like we were finally able to get to a space within ourselves to receive information that's helping us connect more to our spiritual essence, or to get connected, reconnect, or rekindle, whatever word you want to use there. And so there's a huge population that is doing that, right? We've had our experiences in life, and we know that there's something else. I always ask, you know, is this what life is all about? Because I was pissed. Like, if this is what life's about, I don't want to fucking be here. Let's be real. And it started information started coming to me through other teachers and influencers that, you know, this spiritual connection, which I didn't have consciously when I was younger. And so lots of people are jumping on board of that train, right? We got our ticket on that train to learn and study and soak in information that resonates with us, to be and do better, to connect more to that love space, to treat people better. And that the ones, when you said there are people who are, you know, like hitting a brick wall, like, okay, I got it. To me, are the people that are having the near-death experiences, the people that are having those critical life altering experiences that's getting their attention to wake them up. And so it's like you and we didn't really, I mean, would it be, to me, I think it would be like cool to have it, but however, I don't feel like I need to have it, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, everything that ever was, is, and will be, like, it's all here now. We're all connected. Like, I have that mentality of believing in that. And so I don't feel like I need to have a near-death experience to confirm my belief, if that makes sense. If, to me, there's been plenty of people on the planet who's had those experiences and has shared their experiences with us to say, hey, you know, the stuff we give our attention to on Earth is not worth our time. Really, it's not worth our time and energy. It's just ridiculous what we sit with and stew over and judge and criticize, not only ourselves, but other people. Like, it's totally a waste of time and energy on our part. And that we do create our reality. We do create the people that we interact with, we create them. The environments we're in, we create them. Like, we are creating our own environments. And so I just wanted to hit up on that. Like, people are having this, I'm going to say it, call it a spiritual awakening. They're having this spiritual awakening. Some have been on it and are open to hearing more about it and implementing the things that they're learning, and others need to have, you know, their head whacked type of thing, where it's that bump on the head and then they're like, oh, I get it, right? Something has to shake them up to get their attention. And part of that also, when you were talking, part of that is having a loved one pass, right? Having a loved one transition. Because look at the experiences you've had since the transitions, your mom, your brother, and your husband, like all the experiences you have had since they've transitioned, still communicating with them. Like that solidifies your belief about spirit, about energy, about connection, about love. Yeah. Like none of them hung on to whether you hated them or were angry at them. Once they transitioned, that's all dropped. And so in that space of the spirit energy, it's just love. And that's what Bev and I, you know, believe in. That's where our belief is. Like, is there negative spirit? Well, there's negative humans. So I wouldn't call it negative. It's just some are lower vibrational than others, and some are higher vibrational than others. Some people can hold that space of joy and love, and it's easy for them, like on a daily basis. That doesn't matter who they come in contact with, they hold that space. And then there's other people in lower vibrational energies where, you know, you just look at them cross-eyed and they freak out. Okay. There's high vibrational energies, there's low vibrational energies.
There is. And I like using the example of near-death experiences as part of the awakening, because that is definitely one of the ways I've heard people talk about, like they were walking from their car to their work, and all of a sudden, like they had a flash of light or a flash or a whatever, and then in an instant, everything changed. Like everything, like from that moment, they saw everything totally different than how they had seen things before, which I would perceive as an awakening. And then as you were talking about us that are gradually going through this awakening, which in so many ways it feels gradual, but when I think about it in the time frame of my life, if I was to use my life as the reference points, I have been in this path or on this path for such a short amount of time. I spent so much time on the other stuff, feeling the other stuff, like feeling that I guess I deserve to be in that space of the muck and guck and not feeling good and happy and trying to plow through it, which was a lot of extra work. Really, in hindsight, I can see that. And the thing that comes to me is, because we are going through these in gradual stages, we are setting the stage for a mass awakening. So because vibration is everything, and once the vibration is increasing constantly, and we have so many people now, and we don't even have to have as many people as we do, but it's still having an effect, right? There's a cause and effect. There's all those things that are causing us to want something more, which we in turn are like, no, there's more to this life. And then we're creating that effect. We are already doing it. It's already a done deal. It is. So now it's just witnessing it.
Something that came to mind earlier, and I just want to put this out there, that the more people, I mean, there's millions of people already that are on this path, their spiritual path or awakening path, or where we're really recognizing, and what it comes down to is really recognizing what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And we know that the energy of what doesn't feel good, if we stay in that space, then we get more of that. And when we have that glimmer or glimpse of what feels good, and we're there for, I would say a short amount of time. Short amount of time could be defined as a minute or 6 months or long. I mean, our time here is short, right? When we think about it, our life here is short. So when you say short amount of time, you have to define that. doing more what feels good, and more people are on that path and realizing that the more or the better they treat themselves, that the easier it is to treat others better. And we keep having that flow of feel good energy. So here's what I want to throw out there is the more people who are on this path of the feel good energy, and the more we're amplifying it, that's, I feel, is affecting our powers who think they are in control. So I'm talking about the political realm, our world leaders, that the more people are in that space of feeling good, that it's creating a disgruntled energy for the energies that don't feel good, because our attention to it is, I don't like that, and here's what I like. So we're moving our attention over to what we want, what we like. And that's what, if you want to call them light workers, more and more people are stepping into that space of being a light worker, and light workers focus on what they want. They focus on feeling good. And the more people that we have in that space, the more it's disrupting the people who feel like they're in control of the masses. And and so here's just something else. So when somebody feels like they're out of control, they create something else to feel like they are in control.
Absolutely.
And so it's a new law. It's changing a law. It's right. It's overturning laws. It's things like that, because they're feeling out of control. So now it's narcissistic behavior. It's now, I need to create something where I feel like I'm in control of you. And more people are in that space, are recognizing that. They're like, wait, no, time out. I'm not falling for this anymore. Like, this isn't happening. This isn't working for us. This relationship's not working for me. It doesn't feel good.
It's true. But if we stop and let's take it down even a notch. So let's give it a little bit less power than even all that stuff. It's looking at it and recognizing everything outside of me is my gauge. So if I'm paying attention to that, that is a reflection of how am I feeling inside right now. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, that would be showing up in my experience. Because, and I thought about this morning as I was getting ready, we listen to certain music when we're in certain moods.
Right.
It's a gauge. Everything is a gauge. And this awakening is going to happen to people in political power too. It's going to happen to so many people, and I feel like it's probably going to happen as a big, that big old clap of the hands of boom, this just happened. And then they're going to be sitting in a space like, how did I get here? And then it's an opportunity for that growth for them in that space to be like, I can't be in this space anymore. And to be in my integrity, I have to be this way. And then we're going to see a shift. It's even more of a shift. But if we just look at it as like, oh, my speedometer, right? Oh, I might be going a little bit too fast. Well, I'm going too fast because I'm looking at all this stuff. The faster you're going, the faster or the harder you're going to hit that tree. However you want to look at it. It's just all of this stuff that's going on outside of us. The political stuff, the changing the laws, trying to gather energy, like you said, trying to control. And that control creates fear. Oh my God, they're taking more things away from me. Well, guess what? Not for me. Not for me, because if I want to do any of the things that I want to do, they're not going to have any, they have no say over me. They have lost, for me, they've lost their validity. They've lost their integrity. And I think that's probably on a global level. So that's what helps us to be like, no, that's like the kid that if he wants to throw a temper tantrum because he wants attention, go ahead and throw a temper tantrum, but I'm not going to give you attention right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn and look over here. Same thing you were just saying, but I'm going to turn my sights over here because this feels better. That doesn't feel good. And then guess what? It's when you're looking over here doing all the stuff that feels good, those over there that were throwing the temper tantrums and trying to control everything, they start getting a little bit interested in what's going on over there. And then they start going through their changes too. It's not something that we have to push upon anybody else. It's just a recognition. All this stuff is going on around you is a bunch of tools. Really, they're just tools letting you know this is where I'm at right this minute. So before I would have been like, oh gosh, Bev, you're not giving enough attention to this. This really stuff is going on. God, should I be really afraid of all this stuff? No, that doesn't feel right to me. And before I would have said, probably been on the same train as someone else, because I had that duality within myself and been like, oh, she just wants to ignore everything over there, like nothing's happening, and go on in her little pretend world, whatever. But guess what? I feel good while I'm living in this physical body, and there's going to be an exit point at some point, because that's just the way we got it all set up. Thank God in so many ways, and then not so much thank God, I guess. I don't know. I think it's a wonderful process. We get to be here. Let's not squander it. Let's enjoy it. And then we're going to find an exit point. And if our exit point is because someone put us into exile, well, then that's so be it. That's what happens. Or if our exit point is I'm just falling asleep somewhere overseas in my bed, and I'm like, it's 1,500 years old. Okay, whatever that looks like. It doesn't matter. The whole idea is to enjoy this journey while we're here.
Absolutely. I'm like, yes. And that's what I was actually thinking, that stuff when you were saying it is in other terms, that we're energy can't be destroyed. And this is one lifetime of many. It's one lifetime of many.
Billions upon billions, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even fathom the amount of lifetimes I've already had, or going to have. And such a time as this, to be here, to be that energy shift influencer for where the political world is right now. I've heard a few people that I've actually talked to who said, so hard to be spiritual right now. It's so hard to be a light worker right now. And I'm like, it's not hard. I mean, it's going to be hard if that's the terms you want to use. It's hard if you want to find it to be difficult or be in that space of difficulty. The power is in the present moment. So in this moment, if I'm feeling good, it's not hard to be a light worker. It's not hard to hold that space of joy and love and contentment. And what makes it hard is what you're focused on. Whatever you're focusing on, if that is stirring up negativity in you or not feeling good sensations in you, then if it is out of your control, you can't do anything about it, then it's not something you give your attention to. Now, if you're one of those people who want to make a difference in that way of going and gathering people and protesting, then move in that direction if that feels good to you. If that feels like you're making a difference, if you're wanting to go and get laws changed, if that feels good to you, then go do it. If it feels good, it's got to lift your spirit. It's got to fuel you in a direction that is lighting your heart up. If you're doing it from a space of anger, frustration, irritation, judgment, criticism, then it's for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I would add tired and exhausted to that too, because if it's not your passion, it's not your drive. If you're feeling tired and exhausted, that's probably that means to go take a freaking nap. That's not where you need to be right this moment.
Right.
And meditate. My God, I can't even express to people how meditation is so beneficial. And it's beneficial just learning how to be quiet. Learning how to be quiet and listen, so that you can hear all the answers that you've been asking all these questions to. Or you can receive all the answers of the questions you've been asking, however you want to say it. You catch my drift.
I got it. And that's true even if there's something that you want to do to make a difference, to get something changed in the laws, and it could be even at work, your handbook or whatever. Like, listen, ask the question, how can this be, and how can there be ease in getting this changed? And listen, It's that easy. Let the information come to you, because spirit is there to help us. And so let that come to you, but you have to ask for the help and guidance instead of making it such a power struggle. When there's power struggle, that means, like Esther and Abraham says, you're paddling upstream. Don't paddle upstream. Ask the question, sit in the canoe, flow with the stream, and let the information come to you.
It's true. On anything, because then it brings forward different information. There might be, it just might be a global thing, you know, some of this, what the Roe versus Wade, you talk about that stuff happening. That's like their last ditch efforts of trying to grab a hold of things. It's almost like someone, like you still have a mom and dad that's being the boss of you, and it's not the way that it is. I feel like just like with everything, it's personal choice, and then whatever resonates with you. There is no right or wrong as far as a lot of this stuff goes. I just because I become neutral to it, and people might perceive right or wrong from that whole situation, but it's becoming neutral to it. If you feel like you got to push for or against something, you're keeping it into your experience, and you're keeping it the way that it is. And becoming neutral allows it to find its flow, and then realize if we're all neutral, then the conversation's not even happening. There's no one even looking in that direction anymore.
And I feel too, there's been such I'm going to say imbalance. There's been an imbalance of feminine and masculine energy. Masculine energy has been on the highest peak for decades. And now that the feminine energy is rising, it's creating some uneasiness in the masculine energy. That's the way I see it. And I'm not saying there's a feminine power, but there are more women rising into their power. And that would create some discomfort, not like illness, but discomfort in the masculine realm, right? That energy's been so high, and now the feminine energy is rising, and now the masculine energy is like, wait, we're losing control. We don't have the power like we used to have. Now we need to change things so that we feel like we have power over. And it's like, keep rising in that feminine energy, because we have to have harmony within it, not one controlling the other.
And it depends on how the feminine energy is being brought forth. If it's being brought forth to push against, and of course the masculine energy it would push right back. That's a natural. I feel like if people keep going in the direction they're going, because we're all masculine and feminine, and then finding that balance of the masculine and feminine, or also known as harmony within the body, then there is no push and pull, because we have been in a mass for anyone to be pushing feminine into our experience, regardless of whatever it is, it's pushing against something else. So you're going to have a pushback always. If there's a push, there's always a pushback. It's matches of energy. But if we rise up and just continue stepping into our power, and that goes for everybody out there, masculine or males and females, because we have masculine and feminine within us. Really, what's the most important is to bring balance between our mind and our hearts. And then the masculine and feminine is going to find its way. It's because the thing is, this whole time we haven't been in our hearts, and there's been such an agenda. Well, we need to be heard. And it's like, no, if you need to be heard, it's because you're not hearing yourself. You're not. You stop and you take stock within self. You put your hand on your heart. You go into your heart space. You recognize that I am the light. And then if you don't recognize it, you start saying that every single freaking day until you recognize it, because you are. The only thing that's changed that is some of the beliefs that you picked up along the way. And all they are is beliefs. That's all they are. It's not right or wrong. It may be true in your experience. Gosh, I was hearing someone talk this morning, and they were talking about, you hear our analytical mind hears one thing, and then we create a whole freaking story from that one thing. And instead of not being so and there's nothing wrong with the mind, because the mind has great It does wonderful things, but having that balance between the mind and the heart is the most valuable. And then the masculine and feminine just falls right into place. Then there's always a harmony within that space. There's no, because if you think about that, if there's not harmony within inside of ourselves, of course you're going to witness everything outside of you that's not in harmony. How could you see anything different? There's not a match. There's been so many times, man, I'm fucking spiritual and I am great and I am honest. What the fuck is going on over there? This is bullshit. Why did I even recognize it? Because I wasn't in the space of energy that I thought I was. That's all. While I'm listening to Metallica in the background, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Metallica, but I'm just saying everything, like I go back to the conversation, everything is a gauge. It lets me know exactly where I'm at right that moment. Right that moment.
And I'm talking about, when I talk about feminine power, feminine energy rising, it's because more people are listening to their intuition.
Yes.
And that's what, it just is the indicator that allows us in our body, in our physical body, to recognize what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And that is the feminine energy. Intuition is the feminine energy. To be still and to listen is the feminine energy. And more people are getting on that train to help them listen to their own internal guidance, to the what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And we know that those lower vibrational energies don't feel good. They stress us out. That puts stress on our body. But the feminine energy, like we were talking about last week, when I said, the feminine energy is that queen energy that says, let me think about this. Let me be still. Let me allow information to come to me. Let me gather some thoughts so that I can create a direction to move into that is less of or no pushback. No, everybody wins. There's a win-win-win for everybody. There are more, since I said that, there are more influencers, multimillionaire business people, that is the space they're in. We're not in competition of one another. We are seeking, or we look for win-win-win for everybody, right? Everybody wins. And that's the space like a lot of these business leaders are in right now. There's no competition. If there's competition, then that means I'm less than you or you're less than me. And the fact is, we might be in the same subject or topic, but we do it different. I do it my way, from my story and my point of view, and other people are. So if there was one person who was teaching about spirituality 100 years ago, and everybody after that said, oh, well, that person's doing it, I can't do it, you wouldn't have all the spiritual influencers that you have today. There's hundreds of thousands of us. I wouldn't be in this space. I know for me, when I started, I'm like, well, how am I going to compete with Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson and Colette Baron Reed and all? How am I going to compete with all these people? And if I would have stayed in that mindset, you and I wouldn't be doing tea time. I wouldn't be doing the classes I do. I wouldn't be writing the books that I'm writing. I wouldn't be doing any of that, because I've already said or compared myself to all these other people. But there are billions of people on the planet. So one person, would be absolutely exhausted in the first hour to try to appease more than 1 billion people on this planet. That would be insane. That's insane. So we need many. It's just like your churches, right? There's many churches, there's many pastors and priests doing the work of their church. And they're spread out all over. It's the same thing with our spiritual light workers, that many of us are in different areas and we're shining our light, which affects hundreds of thousands of people. So there's no comparison.
Yeah.
We're just all on this train, and we're on this train in different stages.
Well,
Quiet moment,
yeah,
light pause. Just hold with us while we breathe.
very cool.
So don't even compare yourself on just a regular day-to-day playing field. Don't compare yourself to the person in the office, your coworkers. Don't compare yourself to somebody who wears a size 6 and you're in a 14. Don't compare yourself. Comparing means somebody's got to lose. Somebody is less than the other. And we're all important.
That is why we exist.
That's why we're here.
That's right.
Just breathe with that.
A lot of heaviness. I don't know.
Well, I like the idea when the business leaders start speaking more of the no comparison. I mean, I've been hearing it for years about comparing myself to somebody else just in general. But when they're like, well, don't even compare your business. It doesn't even matter if you're in the same subject or topic. Don't even compare yourself to them, because you're at a different stage with your business than they are with their business. You're doing your business based on what you know, and they're doing their business based on what they know. And it's two completely entities, even though it's the same topic. It's two completely different experiences. And one person might be leading a spiritual group based on near-death experiences, and I'm leading a spiritual group based on sexual trauma, healing from sexual trauma, healing depression from sexual trauma. Two different things, but still we're the idea is to lift these people up in lighter space, a higher vibrational space, a more joyous space. So it don't compare yourself to anybody else. Do your thing. Just do your thing, boo. It's all right. The people that resonate with you are gonna jump on your train.
Yeah. And perhaps people are getting too caught up in labels. You know, I am a life coach. I am a whatever. It's like all these different things. And it's sometimes we do things that don't fall into a label. I'm doing things now. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know how I would label it. I don't even know how I'd put it, but it doesn't matter. I still have people continuing to show up, wanting just to have conversations, wanting to talk, reminding me of things and remembering things that I've talked about. I talked to a person yesterday, and she says, oh my gosh, I get to have, because she lost someone in her life, I get to have this person with me almost selfishly all the time, more than I ever did before. Yes, this is what I've been telling people. That's the one thing I will tell you. I can have whenever I have the time, right? Whenever I sit, and sometimes it's even when I don't think that I have time, and the person pops into my head, that they're there with us all the time. And when we can start connecting more to our heart and getting into our intuition and listening to this, such an amazing information. We have the collective consciousness that speaks through us, that speaks to us, that brings us answers. We get answers from the creator, God, the universe, the source, whatever you want to call it. We all, because again, we go back to the whole label thing. We have labels for things, but it's this joy to be in that space all the time. And it's just to recognizing where we're at and where we want to go to. And with the process of going through people that have transitioned from their skin suits piecing out, it's helped draw me into this other path. So it's like I've got people coming to me. I can't put a label on what I do right now. I mean, I don't know. I joked around before and called it a message therapist, and people are like, I think you misspelled that. I'm like, no, I did not. I meant that because I'm bringing forth information, because when I'm listening into that space, when I'm neutral, because most of us can become neutral, especially when giving advice, unless we're pulling from that victim mentality of experiences that we've had before, but this information flows through us all the time. There's so much joy to be found in it, but it's like I have this connection and I can see it all the time. So back to getting connected with the heart and stuff like that. And if you don't know how that feels or what that looks like or anything like that, it's asking yourself questions so it can be presented to you. Show me how that feels, and getting into that space. And then you recognize you could see the person, you could hear their voice, you can, like, all this whole process happens as if they were never gone. And then and now they're gone out of this body. They're no longer, maybe you were worrying about them all the time because you didn't know what they were doing at the time. And maybe they were just self-destructive, you felt like at the time. And it's like, that's like, oh God, like constantly being in a space of worry and concern all the time and not being able to relax when it comes to that person. But now you know where they're at. Now they're right there all the time from that same space of love, all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking is that you actually have more access to them while when they're in spirit than you did when in the
Yes,
physical body, because they have
yes.
their own stuff that they were dealing with in their head and their emotions, their
And
physical
no filter.
issues.
Yeah, and they're not filtering it through their life experiences here anymore.
Right.
Now it's just coming through a space of love,
Yeah.
which would go back all the way to you saying earlier, they don't, you guys may not have liked each other. You guys may have loved each other. Maybe things left on a different terms than you wanted to, but it doesn't, once they're in the non-physical, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They
It doesn't
drop that.
matter. Yeah. And it's because it's all coming from a space of love. So now now you have this person that was here, that was in your experience, that you're divinely connected to. You always have been, but now you're starting to recognize it. And it's part of the awakening process. It's part of helping you remember, like, God, there's got to be some more. I know I can do this. There's got to be a way. And it's really just pushing and pushing and pushing for it, regardless of whatever the naysayers or anybody around you tries to talk you out of it. When you're in when you're in that place of passion and you feel like this is it, no one can talk you out of it. If I'm in a space of being the light worker and being the light, because I am the light, I'm going to be in that space constantly, and nothing's going to sway me from that. Do I have my pitfalls every once in a while? Yeah, because that's just stuff that's like comes to the surface. That my house needs to be cleaned a little bit. That's all. Within myself.
Oh, and you can't clean it until you see the dust or the cobwebs. You got to see it.
100%.
Oh, that's great. I was going to say something about the transition. I forgot what it was. So that's all right.
Well, we could say that, first of all, the transition for them is the most amazing experience ever, really. And it's so funny because everyone talks about how I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. You got it. See?
So what I was going to
go ahead.
So the spiritual awakening also, so when we go back to what we were talking about in the beginning, is when a loved one does transition, that is when majority of the people will actually go see a psychic medium for the first time. A medium, actually. It was a medium. A psychic is more tuned into your energy and what's going on with you, and through cards and tools. And a medium has an easier ability to access the energy of loved ones who've transitioned. And then, right, they go see a medium because now they're very intrigued about what happens after their loved one has transitioned. Are they suffering? Are they still around me? Can they talk to me? Have they been talking, right? These common questions that Bev and I have been talking about for a while. That is part of their awakening, is to learn that we're always still connected. That energy, that connection never dies. But that's part of their journey to get onto that train, that their loved ones are still around. Their loved ones still exist. Their loved ones, you can still talk to them. You just have to learn their language. You have to learn how to communicate with them. You have to be in the present moment. You have to get out of your head, out of those heavy emotions, to be present, to receive those messages. And so that's something that when we talk about, their awakening comes hard, that's one of them. That's one way. That's when they like wake up, like, oh, this lady or man who I don't even know, who I'm asking if they can communicate with my loved one, tells me everything about my loved one, describes them to a T, tells me about their habits, tells me what their hobbies were, tells me, and that person's not even here physically for them to talk to. How do they know? Told them anything. And that is something that gets their attention. Like, oh, how does this person communicate with them, but I can't? Then it becomes, well, how can I communicate with my loved one, right? So that's when they begin their journey. But it had to be through a process of grief. It had to be through a process of them reaching out to somebody else to communicate with their loved one who's transitioned.
It's true. And with everything you just said, an evidential medium, if you look up evidential mediums, they're going to bring you the evidence instead of saying, oh, they're doing great, or they felt this way, they felt that way. And every medium can do it. It's just a matter of them asking questions. So that's one thing, like the way you were just describing, telling you exactly what they did as for a living, their date of birth. I mean, they could find out everything because they can say, they just ask. It's just asking that person questions, telling me something that's going on in their life right now that I wouldn't know about. There's all these things that are happening all the time. So if you're going to look for a medium, evidential medium is awesome if you can find one. And I know there's one in Phoenix right now. I have not tried her out, but there's just different people if you want to get more of that evidence, because it helps to solidify there is more. And then it's like, then you start asking, how can I do this? Like you said, it's asking yourself, how can I have this connection? How can I see him? I know I can do it. And also knowing that when you hear even when you listen to these podcasts and these YouTubes and stuff like that are talking about other mediums that are doing these things, it's not something that's out of your reach. It's letting you know this is something that's possible. This is achievable. Everybody has access to it. Does that mean you're going to go out and do readings for everybody? Not necessarily. But if it brings you closer to your loved ones and you have that communication and you're having those conversations and you recognize you can have those conversations with them every single flipping day, they love it. Put a place setting out for them when you're having dinner or you're celebrating their birthdays. Throw a hat in the seat next to you that they used to wear all the time, so you know that they're traveling with you. It's a reminder to have conversations with them. You will, as you do these things, you're not even paying attention. Next thing you know, you're receiving the communication. And then you're like, wait a minute. Then your mind gets in the way for a little bit. It's like trying to talk you out of well, yeah, that didn't really happen. No, that didn't happen. Because then as you're telling people stories, because you don't realize yet you're such an empathic person, you're picking up on their feelings and like, yeah, did that really happen? And then you start questioning yourself because now you haven't identified. I mean, this is the whole journey, right? Now you're questioning yourself because you felt the questioning from somebody else, but haven't realized it's the questioning from somebody else that's making you question yourself. This is like a crazy train that you can go on, but this is the part of the journey. This is our journey. Every little thing that we're going through is helping us to gain trust within ourselves and is pointing us right back to ourselves and letting us know that we are the light. We have communication with everything at all times. There is no separation unless we choose to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and throw some mud in my face over here so I can't see out my eyes very well. Then we're kind of blocking ourselves, but otherwise there's nothing that's blocking us. There is nothing.
And that's another point of intuition. Intuition teaches us to trust.
Yeah.
Intuition teaches us to trust. So when we were little, we had these intuitive hits. We were connected, very connected to spirit, very connected to that spiritual guidance. But then it was diminished because of our upbringings and our experiences. But we were already trusting that divine guidance that we had. Then it got clouded. And then relationships happen, right? Those relationships that you're just like, I don't trust men or I don't trust women, right? So we lose the trust in people. which also means we lose trust in ourselves because we made that decision to get into that unhealthy relationship. I didn't trust my gut when I went ahead and dated this person and it ended up horrible, whatever the story might be. So trust is a big deal when it comes to intuition, feminine energy. We're back into that feminine energy. And it's trusting that what people are saying or doing, is to trust your intuition to recognize, is that acceptable? Does that feel good? If it doesn't feel good, let me tune into that. Right? So I like that you brought the word trust up because that's super important. That also trusting ourselves is building our confidence. Now, when you have your intuition, you have your trust, or you have your love, your self-love, your trust, your confidence, you're a powerhouse. And it's not a powerhouse of needing control other people. It just means you're a powerhouse because you're being led by the divine guidance.
Very true.
That's where I want to be. That's where I'm going. That's where I've been practicing, is being in that space. And you can be it. So powerhouse meaning powerful light worker, a powerful spiritual being in the physical body. It's possible.
Very cool.
So cool. All right. That's all we got today. As always, share this with your friends or family or somebody, acquaintance that you know could be benefit from this conversation. And don't keep us a secret.
Do not. It's very beneficial.
We think so anyway.
Yeah.
That's our belief.
That's true.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev, and we'll see you next week.
Have a magical week.